So I'm on to the next theme, which is technically my segue into getting back into the transgenocide topic. Now, anyone who clicked on this already knows what this might entail, so. Anyways, I think it's safe to start with the definition and histories of genocide as a concept, starting with Raphael Lemkin. And I always thought this was interesting. Let's go. Oh, sorry. Screen's being weird. Raphael Lemkin and the Genocide Convention. Okay. Raphael Lemkin and the Crime Without a Name. At the end of World War II, leaders and activists set out to build new institutions like the United Nations that could foster international coordination and safeguard peace. They also worked to establish new international standards, laws, and treaties in the hope of preventing future crimes like those perpetrated by Nazi Germany. But before World War II ended, the Polish Jewish lawyer Raphael Lemkin had already been working on decades to make the world recognize mass murder as an international crime. The scale of atrocities in World War II gave Lemkin's mission a new urgency. Lemkin was a university student in 1920 when he learned about the coordinated massacres of Armenians during World War I. See Reading Genocide Under the Cover of War in Chapter 3. He was horrified to find out that no international laws existed to persecute the Ottoman leaders who had perpetrated these crimes. Lemkin asked, quote, "Why was killing a million people a less serious crime than killing a single individual?" End quote. 49 members of Lemkin's own family were later murdered in the Holocaust. Lemkin himself had fled to the United States, where he struggled to draw attention to what Nazi Germany was doing to European Jews, massacres that British Prime Minister Winston Churchill called, quote, "a crime without a name," end quote. In 1944, Lemkin made a new word to describe these crimes, genocide. Lemkin defined genocide as, quote, "the destruction of a nation or an ethnic group." He built, end quote. He built the word, he said, from the ancient Greek word genos, race and tribe, and the Latin cide, meaning killing, thus corresponding in its formation to such words as tyrannicide, homicide, infanticide, etc. He wrote, quote, "Genocide is directed against the national group as an entity, and the actions involved are directed against individuals, not their individual capacity, but as members of a national group," end quote. This was an important element of the definition of genocide. People were killed or excluded not because of anything they did or said or thought, but simply because they were a member of a particular group. For Lemkin, genocide was a... wait a second. National group actually would mean there is an ideology to that, but I'm not justifying that. I'm just... Anyways. For Lemkin, genocide was an international crime, a threat to international peace and to humanity's shared beliefs. When World War II ended, Lemkin returned to Europe and served as an advisor to Justice Robert H. Jackson, the leader prosecutor at the Nuremberg trials. See Reading the First Trial at Nuremberg in Chapter 10. Lemkin considered the Nuremberg trial only a partial success, for while they did punish some of those who were guilty of genocide against European Jews, Nazi leaders were indicted on the broader charge of, quote, crimes against humanity, and the Jewish identity of victims were not emphasized. Genocide still was not recognized in law as a crime. Lemkin wrote in, quote, "In brief, the Allies decided a case in Nuremberg against a past Hitler, but refused to envisage future Hitlers," end quote. Therefore, after the trials, Lemkin devoted himself to persuading the newly formed United Nations, quote, "to enter into the international treaty which would formulate genocide as an international crime, providing for its prevention and punishment in time of peace and war, end quote. Lemkin successfully persuaded the UN to act. On December 9, 1948, the United Nations adopted a convention on the prevention and punishment of the crime of genocide, often called the Genocide Convention, which classified genocide as a crime under international law and incorporated many, though not all, of Lemkin's ideas. It did not offer protection for political groups, for example, as he had recommended. The convention states, in part, Article 1, quote, "The contracting parties confirm that genocide, whether committed in time of peace or in time of war, is a crime under international law which they undertake to prevent and punish." Article 2, in the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, or national, ethnic, racial, or religious group as such. A. Killing members of the group. B. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. Now, this is like a purposeful, coordinated attempt at the concept of the group. So, yeah. Not just... I mean, individual people do matter. It's just usually it's... Anyways. C. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Yes. D. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. I'm sure people argue about that happening in the United States all the time, and I mean, we are. Anyways. E. Forcibly transfer children of the group to another group. Wow, we don't really do that at all, even for consensual reasons. Like, we definitely don't adopt at all. But we'll break up families, like, I don't want to get into it, but yeah, America has definitely a history of breaking up families, and we almost certainly did this year. But yeah, again, not getting into that right now. Alright, Article 4? Wait a second. No. Article 3. The following acts shall be punishable. A. Genocide. B. Conspiracy to commit genocide. C. Direct and public incitement to commit genocide. D. Attempt to commit genocide. E. Complicity in genocide. Okay. Article 5. Yeah. Article 5? No. God damn it. This has to be Article 6? Sorry. This is like... I haven't really read Roman numerals in so long. Okay. Persons committing genocide or any other acts enumerated in Article 3 shall be punished, whether they are constitutionally responsible rulers, public officials, or private individuals. Well, of course, anyone connected to this, should be punished, yes. I guess he has to lay that out, or they have to lay that out, because there'd be some dumb loophole. God damn. In the 1950s, a sufficient number of countries had ratified the convention, and it entered into force, although the United States did not ratify it until 1986. In 1998, a permanent international criminal court was established, with jurisdiction over the most important international crimes, including genocide. See reading the International Criminal Court. Lemkin's contribution was enormous, though he died before he could witness a convention for a crime he was the first to name. Oh, that's a shame, actually. Alright. Connection questions. Raphael Lemkin spoke of the importance of envisaging future Hitlers. What did he mean? Why might it have been important to imagine future Hitlers even when leaders were still trying to address the crimes of the Nazis? 2. Numerous words that described mass killing were available to Lemkin, including crimes against humanity, slaughter, race, murder, and others. He rejected all of them in favor of a word he made up himself. Does the word genocide convey something the other terms do not? 3. When a people is destroyed, what is lost in addition to their lives? How does the Genocide Convention address these losses? Well, the creativity and the culture itself, like, not even culture, just creativity, the food, the authenticness of how you go about enacting some of the customs, like, because you can just take the dress, you can take the food, but I mean, there's going to be something missing out once it's slowly just whitewashed and, or whatever culture destroys it. Anyways, when a people is destroyed, what is lost in addition to their lives? How does the Genocide Convention address these losses? 4. Lemkin believed that the new words must be created when new ideas or events strike at our consciousness. How can coining new words help us understanding old issues? What is the role of language in dealing with social problems? How do innovations in language educate those who use the language? 5. Despite the existence of the Genocide Convention, the crime of genocide has continued to be perpetuated. Since the convention was entered into force in 1951, genocides have occurred in Cambodia, in Rwanda, in Bosnia, in Darfur, and other places around the world. Each genocide is unique, but does the persistence of genocide suggest anything generally about the limitations of international law in preventing this crime? What other tools could be used to prevent genocide? What should happen when such crimes are not successfully prevented? Well, you don't just stop, that's for sure. Okay. There'd be a whole lot to read, actually, but on to the next aspect. Alright, so originally I was gonna read this book, guys. I really was. But upon further realization, there's a thinking style to it, like a philosophical framework or some type of way that it explains itself that I would look like a fool even trying to wrap my mind around. So, of course I did read it a little bit. It's just, I don't think it would be worth it to have me make a essay or have me read that and stumble more than I already do anyways. I did take something that I wanted to read to get to my greater point in this theme. Anyways, let's see. So, this is terminology, proliferation, and solutions. So, term, meaning 1. Genocide, targeted group destruction, which is targeted mass killing, when solution proposed here would be framework concept for destructive and anti-population violence, version of 1. Oh, I think it's talking about the first edition of the book. Alright. Holocaust, name for Nazi genocide of Jews. Okay. Exceptionally murderous genocide, Bauer. Nazi genocide is a better name. General concept not useful. I think what this is trying to be saying is that this is what I'm saying. I'm not trying to put words in this mouth, but genocide and Holocaust do seem to overlap as terminology in everyday people. Like, when people are talking about, it was a Holocaust or some dramatic usage or reappropriation of the term, Alright. ethnic cleansing, forced removal of populations, which we already know this, but I'm just still reading this. Anyways, framework, concept for violence against murders. Or, violence against groups, sorry. Okay. Solution proposed here. Euphemistic term for forced removal, which is one method of genocide, better to indicate by specific terms, expulsion or deportation, etc. Democide, framework concept for all killing. Wait, what? Really? There doesn't seem to be a meaning to. Okay. Not. Oh, okay, that's why. Not useful concept. Need to distinguish genocide from individual killings during repression. So, I guess governments killing each other politically don't count? Or is that just like how war works? Or, like, I don't see how this. Like, I think it would be shocking nowadays for nations to kill each other politically, like, in war. So, anyways. Ethnocide. Alternative for genocide. Lemkin. Cultural, or meaning to, cultural without physical destruction, cultural genocide. Solution. Lemkin's alternative superseded cultural repression clearer and is not genocide unless part of deeper social destruction. Yeah, I mean, people are generally killing over ideas not because you simply exist. It's usually actually personal, even though they would pretend it's not, in cold blood. Alright. Gendercide. Gender selective mass killing. And there doesn't seem to be a meaning to. Okay, gender targeted without genocide. Within genocide. Yeah, that's true. I guess people, when they're slaughtering a specific group of people, they will destroy the children, I guess. That's great. That's lovely. That's yeah, I can see why there's no meaning to, and it just jumps to a solution about what it's meaning, I guess. Okay. Politicide. Oh, I thought that would be democide. Oh, demi means everything. Oh, I forgot. Oh, I'm so stupid. What am I on? If you're still watching this, sorry about that. Okay. Politicide. Killing of politically defined population. Okay. Killing of political elite. Solution. Genocide of a class-defined group. I don't think it's necessarily class in the mind of the oppressors. Or, sorry, it's not class in the mind of the people being oppressed. They're not they're not complaining and rising up because they're a different type of class. It's because they're being discriminated against. And whatever. I don't think it's trying to be, like, rude about it. It's just that struck me as a little weird. Alright. Classicide. Killing of class-defined populations. Oh, right. Okay. I totally read that wrong. Genocide of politically defined populations, or political targeted as part of the genocide of ethno-nationality defined populations. Yes, that would be politicide. Okay. Okay. Classicide, which just sounds ridiculous. Killing of a class-defined population. Like, these are all terms that exist, so I think it's good that they do, for whatever loophole of a psychopath that happens to enact one of these things. Okay. Herbicide. Like, that's, like, who the hell is specifically going after urban neighborhoods, whatever, attacking the poor, whatever. Okay, I guess that could mean that. Destruction of plural urban center, anti-urban dimension of genocide. Okay, like the police attacking a neighborhood, I guess. I don't know. Auto-genocide, destruction of ethnic group by people belonging to same ethnicity. And there's no second meaning, and the solution, not useful concept, rationale for a destructive policy shows that it does not describe what is going on. I think when we set up poverty in the way we do, and they form gangs and ghettos, and like it becomes jilted and fucked up, and people start to like shoot each other and do drugs, and it just, oh my god, you set them up for that. So I would think that that would be auto genocide in a community way. Yeah, I really think auto genocide would also be like what we would do to trans people by not giving them gender affirming care. They end up just killing themselves, and that whole community dies from suicide or one way or another like that. And so it doesn't become, well, somebody harmed them, they did it themselves because, well, they're trans, they're mentally ill. Like, it would just be blamed on that. Okay. On to the next thing, I would hope. Alright. So, the last. No, not the last. Alright, so. I'm just reading this definition based on theme, and I think it's good to know, which will branch off into uh, the next side. And this is obviously very relevant, so anyways, gendercide is the systematic killing of members of a specific gender. The term is related to the general concepts of assault and murder against victims due to their gender, with violence against women and men being problems dealt with by human rights efforts. Gendercide shares similarities with the term genocide in afflicting mass murders. However, gendercide targets solely one gender, being man or woman. Political military frameworks have historically inflicted militant governed divisions between femicide and androcide. Gender-selected policies increase violence on gender populations due to their socioeconomic significance. Certain cultural and religious sentiments have also contributed to multiple instances of gendercide across the globe. Eugenics and just basically from what I've heard is female infanticide. I've never heard of androcide. That's interesting. Anyways, etymology. The term gendercide was first coined by American feminist Mary Ann Warren in her 1985 book Gendercide, The Implications of Sex Selection. It refers to gender selective mass killing. Warren drew, quote, an analogy between the concept of genocide, end quote, and she was called gendercide, and what was called gendercide. In her book, Warren wrote, quote, by analogy, gendercide would be the deliberate extermination of persons of a particular particular sex or gender. Other terms, such as gynocide and femicide, have been used to refer to the wrongful killings of girls and women. Nevertheless, gendercide is a sex-neutral term in that the victims may either be male or female. There is a need for such a sex-neutral term since sexually discriminatory killing is just as wrong when the victim happens to be male. True. The term also calls attention to the fact that gender roles have often had lethal consequences, that these are an important respects analogous to the lethal consequences of racial, religious, and class prejudice. Femicide is defined as the systematic killing of women for various reasons, usually cultural. The word is attested from 1820s. According to the United Nations, the biologically normal sex ratio at birth ranges from 102 to 106 males per 100 females. However, ratio higher than normal, sometimes as high as 130, have been observed. This is now causing increasing concerns in some South Asia, East Asia, Central Asian countries. Such disparities almost always reflect a preference for boys as a result of deeply embedded social, cultural, political, and economic factors. The most widespread form of femicide is in the form of gender-selective infanticide in cultures with strong preferences for males, such as China, India. According to the United Nations, males to female ratio have experienced radical changes from the normal range. Gendercide of girls is reported to be a rising problem in several countries. Census statistics report that in countries such as China, the male to female ratio is as high as 120 men for every 100 women. Many experts attribute such a ratio to institutions such as China's one-child policy. Female heirs were considered less desirable than male heirs, and subsequently abandoned and eliminated in mass. Genocide also takes the form of infanticide and lethal violence against a particular gender at any stage of life. The World Bank describes violence against girls and women as a global pandemic. 1 in 3 women experience gender-based violence in their lifetime. In research, hold on. I'll be back, guys.